Happy to tell you how I went from being super woke to voting for Trump. For one, I voted for Obama because I wanted gay marriage, and then I became super woke from there. I lived in a deep red state in the South, and I decided I wanted to move to Portland, Oregon, of all places. So I moved to Portland about maybe 10 years ago now. When I moved to Portland, I became vegan. I also was one of the pioneers of calling Trump supporters racist and all of those other words, right? Because I was reading a lot of fake news, a lot of headlines, and seeing people like Jimmy Fallon and these other talk show hosts repeating this rhetoric, and I fell for it because I didn't know much about politics. But either way, I lived in Oregon. I lived in Portland, Oregon, and I was vegan, and I actually went to a lot of these protests, these peaceful protests. I never did anything violent. I always stayed away from these people, but I firsthand started to witness the violence and the rhetoric coming from BLM and Antifa. This is before I ever even considered voting for Trump, right? Then I moved to Seattle from Portland. I got to witness firsthand what was going on in Chaz/Chad when Antifa and BLM and all of these other woke activists took over several city blocks and an entire police station in Seattle. I walked through Chaz a few times, right? As well as I knew a lot of the people who were like advocating and kind of running the whole Chaz thing. They said that it was decentralized. It kind of was, but it also wasn't. And the reason why I knew a lot of these people was because I was vegan, and I participated in a group called Anonymous for the Voiceless. It's a animal rights vegan activist group. And the thing is, a lot of these vegan people, most of them, are the same people who identify as Antifa and BLM, and now the pro-Palestine people. They're all the same. Trust me, I've lived in these major cities and I've seen it. So during Chaz, I started realizing that these people are rather hateful. They're criminals. And I was looking at the news and I was like, wow, the way the news is covering this thing that it's peaceful, it absolutely is not. The type of rhetoric that I was hearing firsthand in Chaz were a bunch of white people saying things like white people shouldn't be able to vote and we need to give black people 2 votes, where black people are on the ground and they're literally telling them like, yeah, you're crazy. One black guy got on stage and he said, you know, hey, I'm a former thug. I've stolen a lot of stuff, done a lot of B&Es, and if it were not for the police arresting me and throwing me in jail, I would still be a thug. We need our police. There's bad people out there, and I just want you guys to question the type of rhetoric that you are spreading, essentially. And they booed this dude off stage and about drug him out of the entire little Chaz Chop area by his damn hair. Super rude. So, anyways, I'm hanging out with these same activists, vegan, Antifa, BLM people, right kind of on the end of the Chaz Chop, right? And the conversation comes up of pronouns. And someone is identifying as they, them. And so I just didn't have a conversation with this person because I recognize 2 pronouns. I've always recognized 2 pronouns, and I'm not going to pretend to try to appease someone else. And I wouldn't want anyone to do that for me either. Don't pretend that you go along with whatever I'm about to try to be fake. I refuse to do that. So I just didn't even have the conversation with these people. Later, they were like, hey, why did you walk off during that conversation? I was like, because I didn't want to challenge your whole pronoun thing, but I explained to them that I recognize 2 pronouns. In that instant, those Antifa, BLM, and vegan rights activists turned on me. They flipped a switch. They turned into hostile thugs, essentially. So I left and I thought, wow, you know, these people are hateful. Their rhetoric is hateful. And technically, I've been pretty hateful like them. I've been repeating a lot of these talking points on these fake news channels that I've been seeing, and maybe I should really question what I'm about. So not only did I was vegan for 5 years, and not only did I become more and more ill, I started getting chronic illnesses from eating the vegan diet. So I switched back and I just decided I'm eating meat again. I'm not going to do this whole vegan thing. So then the vegans got super butthurt about it. I started getting death threats from Antifa as well as BLM in the area. They lost their minds. They tried telling me that if I would apologize and I would recognize that there's more than 2 genders, as well as recognize my white privilege, that they would let me back into their little gang. So, and I have receipts to prove it. I have all these old messages, and I basically told them to fuck off. At that point, I realized how hateful and how ignorant these people were. So I started opening my mind to Trump. I was like, or actually too, another thing that happened in that time was the 2020 Democratic debates. And I was watching these like 20 odd something people debate on the Democratic debate stage. And I was still set on, I'm going to find me a Democrat to vote for because I'm not a fan of Trump. So I watched the rhetoric on the debate stage. I watched Kamala call Joe Biden racist and all this stuff. I watched Tulsi just rip Kamala a new one, and I saw how deeply unpopular Kamala was, and for many reasons, because she's a Marxist and she's further left than Bernie ever even could dream of being, right? Anyways, my breaking point with the Democrat Party was when everyone but Tulsi raised their hand on a debate stage saying that they would offer free health insurance to illegal immigrants and that they were pro-open borders, and calling people like Donald Trump racist for wanting safe borders, which is kind of weird because now Kamala is saying that she's going to close the borders and hire more people and all this stuff. The same stuff she called Donald Trump racist for, mind you. She's full of shit. They're lying, blaming the border issue right now on Trump. I will say that, but that's not the point of this video. The point is, I started really paying attention to Trump. I started listening to a lot of my friends, many who were minorities who supported Trump, who I myself were like, oh my God, you're racist if you follow Trump, blah, 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 blah. The woke mindset bullshit. And I realized Trump's not that bad, and he's definitely not as bad as these socialist Marxists in the Democratic Party. The Obama-era Democrats are gone, and they have been replaced with extremists like Kamala, who cannot tell the difference between a man and a woman. So I rejected a lot of the nonsensical men can be women, blah, blah, blah. I do not at all agree with sexualizing or mutilating children's bodies. I think it's absolutely disgusting. So there's nothing that the Democrat Party could do to get me back at this point other than drop all the crazy fringe bullshit that they've made up, right? And close the borders as well as a lot of other stuff. But as I started looking into Donald Trump, I started realizing that everything I had been told about Donald Trump was a lie. Straight up a lie. It was just smear campaigns. A lot of it brought on by the RNC and GOP, others brought on by the DNC, and a lot of it was just fake news media, clickbait crap, right? So the more I looked into Trump, the more I liked Trump, and the more I realized his policies are going to be the only thing that saves this country. And when I make fun of the wokies, I'm doing it based on personal experience that I've had with the woke mob. And I am serious when I say the vegan activists, BLM, Antifa, and these pro-Palestine Hamas people, pro-Hamas people, are all the same people. And if you dare challenge a damn thing that they say, one single thing that they say, they will turn on you and they will become violent and they will send you death threats. I just say, if you don't believe me, go to a super blue city, find you some vegan activist or some BLM or Palestine activist, challenge anything they say. You don't even have to be ugly to them. You could just say, I respect the fact that you use whatever XYZ pronouns, but I only recognize two pronouns. You can go as far as believe in what I believe and say, hey, even if you're a man identifying as a woman, I still see you as a man. You're still a man. But if you're respectful to me, I will use she, her pronouns, but I won't use anything beyond he, him, she, her. And they're going to turn on you. They're going to become violent. And they're going to try to threaten your very existence. And to me, that was enough to completely ditch the wokies. And when I say woke, that's what I mean. People who are confused by gender, people who try to force ideologies on you that make absolutely no sense. They make up genders. They try to tell you that open borders are a good thing. They try to tell you that you're racist for saying that our troops and our American citizens should receive assistance before illegals receive assistance. Things like that. The woke mob. And anybody who's going to turn on someone who otherwise agrees with them about a lot of things and become violent, that's a terrorist group, realistically. Tyrannical, unhinged weirdos.